Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey. And every weekday, I read one chapter of the New Testament and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24. Jesus came out of the temple and was going away with his disciples when they came up to him and pointed the temple buildings out to him. And he said to them, "Do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, not one stone will be left upon another, which will not be torn down." As he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, asking, "Tell us, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "See to it that no one misleads you, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will mislead many. You will be hearing of the wars and rumors and wars, and see that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and in various places there will be famines and earthquakes. But all these things are merely the beginning of the birth pangs. Then they will deliver you to tribulation and will kill you, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. At that time many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and mislead many. Because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end, he will be saved. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all the nations. Then the end will come. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. Whoever is on the housetop must not go down to get the things that are in their house. Whoever is in the field must not turn back to get his cloak. But woe to those who are pregnant and those who are nursing babies in those days. But pray that your flight will not be in this winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be a great tribulation, such as not has occurred until the beginning of the world, until now, nor ever will. Unless those days had been cut short, no life would have been saved, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then if anyone says to you, 'Behold, here is the Christ,' or 'There he is,' do not believe them. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and will show great signs and wonders, so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Behold, I have told you in advance. So if they say, 'Behold, he is in the wilderness,' do not go out. Or 'Behold, he is in the inner rooms,' do not believe them. For just as lightning comes from the east and flashes even to the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the heavens with power and great glory. And he will send forth his angels with a great trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branches have become tender and put forth its leaves, you know that the summer is near. So you too, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, right at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But of the day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven nor the Son, but the Father alone. For the coming of the Son of Man will be like the days of Noah. For as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day of Noah entered the ark. They did not understand until the flood came and took them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then there will be two men in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. Two women will be grinding at the mill, and one will be taken and one will be left. Therefore, be on the alert, for you do not know which day your Lord is coming. But be sure of this, that if the head of the house had known at what time of the night the thief was coming, he would have been on the alert, and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. For this reason you must also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour when you do not think he will. Who then is the faithful and sensible slave, whom his master put in charge of his household, to give them their food at proper time? Blessed is the slave whom his master finds doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if that evil slave says in his heart, 'My master is not coming for a long time,' and begins to beat his fellow slaves and eat and drink with drunkards, the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, in an hour which he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, and in the place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." One thought. We come now to the fifth and final discourse of Matthew. This is a teaching block known as the Olivet Discourse because Jesus is on the Mount of Olives. And Jesus is addressing two separate questions. They're interrelated, though, but two separate questions from his disciples. When the destruction of the temple will be, and when his coming will be. And the chapter is difficult to interpret because Jesus, like the great Hebrew prophets of old, Jesus is kind of like, standing in line with them. He often blends issues that will happen in the near term, like the destruction of the temple, which occurred in 70 AD. He blends them together with issues that are going to happen far, far in the future. But I think the overall point of this chapter we don't want to miss. And essentially, I think Jesus gives us some important things to keep in mind so we don't fall into end times madness. That's the best term that I can come up with this. There's a couple responses that Christians can have when they read a chapter like this. And one is to become a little obsessive. I don't think this is quite as common of a response as it was maybe in the 20th century, but a lot of Christians, some Christians became very obsessive about mapping out the end times and all the events and how they all connect together and trying to read the signs of the times. I think another response that Christians have to passages like this is just fear, because they're fearful of the future and they're fearful of the world spiraling out of control. And then finally, I think some can just downplay or just ignore the fact that Jesus is coming back. But that's a huge point that comes up over and over in the New Testament, that Jesus is coming back to usher in a new creation, to judge the wicked and vindicate the righteous. So how do we keep from falling into end times madness? First of all, Jesus says, don't be misled. That there's going to be a lot of imposters out there. There's going to be a lot of imposters saying, I'm him. And I think most directly applicable, it was to Jesus's audience in the aftermath of the destruction of the temple. In 70 AD, many people claim to be the Messiah, but I think the broader point still stands that there are people who claim to speak for God. They claim to have special insight into the future, and they are misleading people. And so we need to be anchored in truth, and the most basic point of truth is that no one knows when Jesus is returning. So all predictions of that are going to fail, and they're wrong. So don't be misled. Don't be misled. Jesus, I think, also says, though, don't be frightened. He says you'll hear wars and rumors of wars. There will be nation rising against nation. There will be famines and there will be earthquakes. All of these things are merely the beginning of the birth pangs. I think what Jesus means here is that throughout history, it's gonna be turbulent. But actually, the turbulence of history is not necessarily a sign of Jesus' return. Like the sign of the Son of Man returning is Jesus returning. That's the sign to look for. When he comes back, you're going to know it. And so I think he's saying, don't be frightened. These things, history is turbulent. This world is broken. There are wars. There are natural disasters. So hope in God. Continue to preach the gospel. Continue to love others and keep pressing on. Endure to the end. And that's essentially what he says in verse 13 and 14. The one who endures to the end will be saved, and the gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world. That is the twin mandate we have: endure and preach. Jesus' words to his disciples here, I think, do speak to us, though, today as well. And we must be vigilant against false teaching and deception. We must live boldly in the world. We need to trust God and not be frightened by the circumstances around us. And in all things, we must persevere in our faith. When we are doing these things, we can remain faithful and we can keep from succumbing to end times madness of being obsessed or frightened or apathetic.